Hey, what is up, guys? It is Chris from the WWFuInterNetWork, here again with another interview for your listening pleasure. This time, I'm with current ROH superstar, the Prodigy, Mike Bennett. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm great. I wanted to thank you beforehand just for doing the interview and being so cool about it. So I guess we'll jump right into it if you're all set.
That sounds good to me.
All right. So who inspired you to become a pro wrestler? I mean, everyone has their own kind of inspiration, growing up. So who was your inspiration?
I guess I'd have to go back to the very first WWE show that I went to. I always looked up to different guys, but what actually got me into wrestling was I went to the Monday Night Raw when Mick Foley first won his very first World Heavyweight Championship. And the response that he got, I just remember being in the crowd. The way the place erupted, and it's just the guy who nobody ever thought could be anything and then becoming WWE champion. And I literally watch it over and over again every time I want to get inspired, and it gives me goosebumps. From that moment on, I knew that I was going to be a wrestler somehow, some way, no matter what.
Yeah, I love moments like that. Even more recently, with back in 2009 when Jeff Hardy was winning the World Heavyweight titles and seeing that, the guy who was told he was too small to do everything, Rey Mysterio winning the Royal Rumble, stuff like that is just awesome.
Yeah, I love that stuff. Especially now with guys like Daniel Bryan and CM Punk, are two guys that people always said would never be anything, and now they're shutting everyone up. It's just, it's always motivation for all the guys on the indies and wrestlers around the world.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Now, who was your favorite pro wrestler growing up? Did you have a specific favorite, or did you like a bunch of guys?
I did like a bunch of guys. When I was 5 or 6, obviously I was a Hulkamaniac, and I hated the Ultimate Warrior. But as I started to get older in the Attitude Era, obviously I loved Stone Cold and I loved The Rock. But then when I actually became a wrestler, my favorite wrestlers changed, and I started to appreciate the work of Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, Mr. Perfect. So it's a big array of people that I would say are my favorites. As a kid, obviously it's the cartoonish Hulk Hogan, but then when I'm actually a wrestler, I love Shawn Michaels and I love Triple H. And so it varies. But as a kid, obviously I was a Hulkamaniac.
Oh yeah. My dad was exactly the same way. When he was younger, loved Hulk Hogan, and then as he, grew older, it started to understand the business, started just, appreciating the guys who really put in a lot of effort and stuff. So that's why I actually love the independents, because all of you guys go out there, just put your heart into it, not really wrestling in front of tons of people or wrestling in tons of people, and it's just great. I always enjoy it. That's why I love independent wrestling, to be honest with you. Because you guys go out there and just put your heart into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why guys, like I said, guys from the indies and guys from Ring of Honor do so well in WWE, because they wrestle in front of they wrestle in these bingo halls and these VFWs for no money, and they always put their heart and soul in it. So when the big contracts come, they're like, well, I gave it 100% on the indies, now I'm going to give it 200% to WWE because now I'm getting the big money.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I'm aware you wrestled in a lot of independent companies before actually even coming into contact with Ring of Honor. Did you have, a favorite company to work for? Was there one company you favored over the rest?
There's a couple, actually. When I was, I would say, 4 years into the wrestling industry, I started wrestling up in New Hampshire for a former WWE development talent named Steve Bradley, and he's actually a big influence in my career. It was a company called WFA, and almost every weekend I would go up there and wrestle. Eddie Edwards was from there, and guys like Brian Fury who were big in this area. We would go up there and we'd learn from Steve, and we'd do shows up in New Hampshire and Vermont and Maine. And I actually did a gimmick that Steve Bradley invented called the Metro Man, where I would be very metrosexual and come out and dance. And it was one of my favorite places to work for the sole reason that Steve Bradley, who used to go by the Mofo, I don't think, if you're a big wrestling historian or you're a huge wrestling fan, you know who he is, but some people don't. The guy had an unbelievable mind for wrestling. Also, Bob Evans used to run promotions out of the Providence and southern Massachusetts areas, and he was the EPW, and I used to love doing that just because Bob is such a special place in my heart for being my original trainer, so I would always have fun doing those.
Yeah, yeah. So is that how that's where you met Bob Evans? Like, that's where you met him, and basically...
He is legit my first train. Like, he trained me in professional wrestling. He was the one who broke me in. He beat me up. He was my legit first trainer.
Yeah, I was just laughing the other day. I was actually watching a Ring of Honor show. I think it was before you came into Ring of Honor in 2010, and he was actually just wrestling. And I was like, that's Brutal Bob. I'm like, what is he doing there? And I was just laughing. I'm like, wow, just because now you guys are huge. You're some of the biggest guys in Ring of Honor, you, Maria, and Brutal Bob.
It's really funny because me and Bob had been doing dark matches for Ring of Honor for a long time, and my very first opportunity in like a Ring of Honor main show, I came out and I lost to what the hell is his name? The UFC fighter. Why can't I think of his name right now? Daniel Puder. I lost Daniel Puder in like 20 seconds. And so that was my first experience. But I was doing dark matches before that, and I wrestled Red Titus in a dark match. Different guys. Jason Blade, who was an old Ring of Honor guy and a New England guy, I wrestled him in some dark matches. So before I actually got the opportunity to be a Ring of Honor on the roster, I was doing all these other stuff, which is always funny to look back on.
Yeah, yeah. So I was actually doing some research on you, and I found out you actually wrestled on an episode of WWE Heat against Crime Time. Now
I did. I wrestled on 2 episodes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Do you have any good stories from that? Like, how was your overall experience, with WWE for that little amount of time?
Yeah, I mean, I wrestled twice. It's actually funny. I've gone to WWE quite a few times as extras, as most people know. They have the local talent show up if they need guys, and I've done that a bunch of times. I would say maybe 12 to 15 times, and both times I got matches was against Prime Time, and I mean, they always treated me good. There's nothing like wrestling in front of that many people. The 2 guys in Crime Time are always the nicest guys I've been in the ring with. They always treat you good. You know what you're there for. They know what you're there for, but, they always treated me like I belonged. And, it's most of the guys there are wonderful. They treat you like you belong. If you just keep your mouth shut, your ears and eyes open, and do what you're told, you really don't have a problem. I've always had good experiences there.
That's good. It's just a funny, quick thing. Every time, on Twitter, I'll just ask, which guy from Ring of Honor do you want to see in WWE the most? Your name is always, you're, number 1 or 2 every time. And I'm just like, that's
it's an honor.
It's because, honestly, I think it's just, I don't want to, be here sucking up to you, but you're one of the only guys, I think, who has, the full package. You got the character, the mic skills, the ring work. It's just, I think your day is going to come very soon. I'm dead serious. It's I think it's only a matter of maybe months or years.
Right. No, I mean, I appreciate that. I'm happy at Ring of Honor now, and I think that's what Jim Cornette and Delirious and Carrie Tilty and Kevin Kelly, I think that's what they all saw in me. They saw a guy that had everything they needed to make the star out of, and they said, we're going to put him in our company. If WWE is in my future, then it's in my future. But right now, I'm happy at Ring of Honor, and I got loads of years ahead of me to do what I need to do.
Well, you know what? If Ring of Honor is going to use you right, that's all your fans really care about. So, you know what? I think they'll be cool with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how did you first come into contact with Ring of Honor? I know you had a shorter stint in 2008. But, who kind of got your, foot in the door, in touch with these guys?
I've known Kevin Kelly since 2003. And I was doing a show in Connecticut for Brutal Bob, and Kevin came to the show to run one of his camps where he'd help guys out with promos and whatnot. And me and Kevin had been good friends. And he's like, what are you doing in wrestling right now? And I'm like, Kevin, I have no clue. I'm lost. I don't know where my direction is headed. He goes, Ring of Honor, Jim Cornette is helping out with Ring of Honor, and I think he'd be a big fan of yours. And I said, well, I would love for Jim Cornette to be a big fan of mine because I'm a big fan of his. And he said that they're running a tryout camp like WWE does sometimes. And he's like, come down, it's a day camp, and see how you do. He's like, I can't promise you anything, but I really think you'll do well. So I said, sure. I went down into the camp. After the camp, Jim Cornette pulled me aside and was a fan of mine, and I'm like, this is awesome. And he's like, we'd like to add you to the roster. And I'm like, well, it's my honor. So it was just, once I got that, I was on the roster. Everything they promised me came true, and it's been fun ever since.
That's great. Now, I got to ask you, now, Ring of Honor, and especially in the year 2010, when, like, I became a fan of Ring of Honor in 2010, you know, when you were the same year you debuted in Ring of Honor. Now, and that year was probably, in my opinion, one of the most hyped years of Ring of Honor, you know, coming off of Death Before Dishonor 8, you know, Final Battle that year as well with Kevin Steen and El Generico. Were you kind of intimidated going into that locker room with that caliber of talent?
Oh, God, I mean, going into Ring of Honor anyways, I think you have this stigma that it's the best wrestlers in the world. And when I went there, the very first pay-per-view I was in the back for was Final Battle when Kevin Steen wrestled El Generico, and I just remember being in awe of that match. And even seeing some of the other guys like Roderick Strong and Christopher Daniels, I was like, holy cow, I have to step my game up. But it wasn't more of an intimidation factor as it was a motivator and being like, well, these guys are my peers now, so I want to live up to what they expect of me because this is our company now. We have to build this company together. So you have to step up or you won't be here very long.
Yeah, exactly. Now, let's talk about the development of the Prodigy character. Was that always something set in stone when you came back in 2010? Was that like one of the, like, was there something different they had planned, or was that always like the initial thing that you were going to be this Prodigy type character?
Well, it was actually Jim Cornette's idea. They didn't know what they were going to do with me. I was doing dark matches where I was wrestling Adam Cole a lot, and we would switch back and forth of who would be the baby face and who would be the heel. And then after I was the baby face the first night, and then the next night I was the heel, and I came back and Jim Cornette said, well, you're going to be a heel because that's what you do. He's like, you're not better at it, you just do it. And so over time, he's like, you're a young, good-looking kid, and you're going to be like the rookie coming out of college in the NFL draft. You're the number one draft pick. All these companies fighting over you, and you choose Ring of Honor. And he's like, you look at Ring of Honor as a way, as stepping stone to bigger and better things. And he just kind of came up to it, and then we threw names around, and the Prodigy kind of stuck as like a, you know, what better way to get under the Ring of Honor fans' skin than to say that I'm the Prodigy of pro wrestling, and I'm a sports entertainer. And I loved it. I was like, yeah, I'll piss them off. That's awesome.
And I remember I was one of the few fortunate enough to have HDNet, and I remember I would just be reading other people's reactions. They're like, who the hell is this guy? Like, when they started airing the vignettes. And I'm like, this is what, like, Ring of Honor needs. They need a guy like this, someone to piss people off. And I was like, this is going to be awesome. I was pumped for it, and I know a lot of people who were too.
Yeah, I was excited. Like, I remember coming out, and the first promo I cut with Jim Cornette is the crowd had, I was one of the last segments, the crowd had really died down. It was just like a 4-hour show, and I remember going out there, and I started cutting my promo, and you could hear crickets in the crowd. And then by the end of it, they were booing me out of the building, and I was like, all right, we got them.
So, now, how did it feel winning the Top Prospect tournament? You know, that was like a big thing for the Ring of Honor TV fans. Did you consider it like a big accomplishment of your career?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, because I was in there with guys like Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly and Michael Elkins, who I think the world of all those guys. We all kind of came in the company at the same time. And to win that, I was like, well, this is awesome because those guys are top of the class talent in the first place, and the fact that I was the one that won it all, it was the first big thing that I actually, you know, kind of put my hat on. That like, all right, I'm on my way to bigger and better things, and it was a really nice accomplishment for me.
Yeah, I really personally enjoyed that tournament, too. And I look now, and I'm like, oh, my God. Like, a lot of guys that were in that are huge now. I was just like, just looking back the other day, like, you are where you are now. Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole just main evented the 10th anniversary show. Michael Elgin just wrestled Davey Richards at Showdown in the Sun. It's just like, they weren't kidding when these guys, when they said you guys are prospects in Ring of Honor. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, that's the funny thing is, like, they know talent when they see it. Like, when we all got signed around the same area, they're like, you guys are going to be our main event. You guys are going to be our stars. And it's funny you bring it up because I haven't even really thought about it until now. And all those guys are huge names in Ring of Honor now, like Kyle and Adam Cole, and they're top names. And even Tommaso Ciampa, who's just getting signed around the time of the top prospect tournament. I mean, all these guys, Ring of Honor knows how to pick talent. So they really do have the best wrestling in the world.
Exactly. Preach it. I argue people left and right. I'm like, WWE is great for entertainment. Like, you want to see wrestling, you go to Ring of Honor just because you guys. I just love Ring of Honor because they hire wrestlers. They hire pure just talent. That's why I think every Ring of Honor fan loves the company, and that's why I argue for you guys left and right. I'm like, these guys deserve bigger attendances. They deserve the best because they are the best.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Ring of Honor has the best professional wrestling in the world, and I think that's why WWE is like, well, we're going to pick and choose who we want from there now as far as Tyler Black and Chris Hero and Claudio and CM Punk and Brian. Like, the list goes on, and it's not a coincidence why those guys are where they are now, and it's all because of Ring of Honor.
Exactly. Now, during your time in Ring of Honor, who would you say your favorite opponent has been? Like, some guy you can go out and just be like, we're going to just tear the roof off this place right now.
Oh, God. I've wrestled so many good guys, but it's like, for different reasons, there's so many different guys. Like, when I first got there, it was Steve Corino for the sole reason that he's Steve Corino, and he's awesome. And I don't think I would have chose someone different to really break me into Ring of Honor than that guy, because it was like, he made me look so good when everybody was calling me green, everyone was calling me brand new, and I was like, no, I know what I'm doing here, and he just made me look like $1 million. And then to get the opportunity to wrestle someone like Lance Storm is on a totally different level. But actually recently, somebody that I actually started training with is Eddie Edwards. If I had to pick anyone, it'd probably be him, where I could just be like, we could go out there and tear the house down no matter what. He's one of the best guys I've ever been in the ring with.
Yeah, I personally love Eddie. He's like, everyone, like, I respect Davey Richards, when the American Wolves were wrestling each other, but I was like one of the far and few that were like, Eddie Edwards is the man. I love him. Like, he was one of the reasons I actually got into Ring of Honor, because that's pure talent in itself. It was amazing.
And he's one of those guys, like I said, he came from Killer Kowalski School, and then he trained with Steve Bradley, and if you talk to him, he'll tell you the same thing about Steve Bradley. Everything he learned, besides when he went to Japan and all that stuff, Steve was the one who instilled all this talent in him. And I think that's why we work so well together, is because we both have that Steve Bradley mentality, where it's like, we know wrestling and we're going to go tear the house down no matter what.
Exactly. Now, when I mentioned I was going to interview you, I think Saturday, this was the number one question, and it is, how did you meet Maria? That's the one question every fan asks.
Of course, that's the number one question. Well, I actually met her at an indie show in Connecticut. It was a company called NEW for Michael Bryan, who's the promoter, and she was on the show, and I was on the show, and I'd never met her before, and we talked backstage, but nothing really came to it. And then we all went out to eat after the show, and we sat across from each other and kind of goofed around with each other, but nothing really came of it then, because I was dating someone and she was dating someone. And then, believe it or not, I'm a giant nerd, and after I broke up with my girlfriend and she was single, the only way I could contact her was through Twitter. So I sent her a message on Twitter and kind of joked with her, and we talked back and forth on Twitter. And then it just kind of took off from there. And then we were like, well, we have a lot in common. Let's do this. Yeah. Actually, she was doing a show out on the East, because I'm from Boston, and she was living in L.A., and she was doing a signing in Philly. And I was like, well, you're going to be close to me, sort of. I'll drive. I drove all the way down, got stuck in New York traffic for 9 hours. And I went and saw her, and we were like, well, yeah, this is perfect. So it's been great ever since.
I just want to make you aware of the amount of men who are just ridiculously jealous of you right now. Every single guy. Like, I'll be like, oh, you know, what do you think about Mike Bennett? Oh, he's great, but I hate him because he's with Maria. And I'm just like, oh, all right.
Trust me, I am well aware how lucky I am when it comes to that. And not a day goes by that I'm like, don't look at her, and I'm like, really? You're with me? Okay, cool.
Now, I gotta ask, how has it been, you know, with you two working together? Is it awesome working with each other, like just being around each other constantly? Because I remember when they announced she was gonna be a final battle, and I was just freaking out. I'm like, wow, this is great. I mean, he must have put in some work just to, you know, have her come. I didn't think she was gonna be a full-time valet with you.
Yeah, and that's the thing is it's probably the best thing that's happened in my career, in all honesty, because not a lot of people give her credit for how smart she is when it comes to professional wrestling, because she spent almost 6 years in the WWE, and she's been around the greatest minds of pro wrestling, from Shawn Michaels to Triple H to CM Punk to Undertaker to all these guys, where it's like, and she just absorbed it like a sponge, and she's literally taken all that knowledge, and every time I go out there, she lays it on me and lays it, and I'm like, this is awesome. And then when they came up to me with the idea of having her be a final battle, I'm like, that's awesome. Let's do it. The Ring of Honor fans will hate it / love it all at the same time. And then it was only supposed to be a one-shot deal, and then she did it. And she's such a fan of pro wrestling that she just wanted to be in Ring of Honor. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, she's only there because Mike's there. That's not true. She's there because she loves pro wrestling, and she respects Ring of Honor, and she loves Ring of Honor. So when the opportunity came where they were like, well, we want to use her full time, she jumped at it. She actually wanted to do it before they brought it up. After Final Battle, we were like talking, how can we do this full time? Do you want to do this? Are you willing to do that? And she's like, yep, I'm willing to do it all because I love Ring of Honor that much. And in all honesty, if I leave Ring of Honor, I think she'll still be there doing whatever because she just loves wrestling that much.
That's great. You know why? Because, you know, all of these, like, divas in WWE, there are a few that like wrestling, appreciate it, but then there's all the other ones who are, like, models that didn't really care about wrestling. And that's why when I first interviewed Maria, I was like, this is, like, the coolest woman ever because she just loves pro wrestling. I'm like, those are far and few between, and it's just great, you know, knowing that she has respect for wrestling, to come to Ring of Honor, and just love being there, too, is awesome.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. I think when people first meet her, they're like, wow, you really do just love wrestling. Like, I think she has that stigma of being just a diva, and now everyone's like, no, you really love pro wrestling, and that's why it's just great. So,
how was it, you know, who told you you're going to wrestle Lance Storm?
Jim Cornette called me and said, Lance, I believe he said requested to work, or Cornette said, I have a guy that you should work, or something along those lines. And he called me and told me when I was actually on the treadmill at the gym. And I was like, wow, that's quite the honor. I'd be flattered to work Lance Storm. Like, it was just such a great moment for me to hear that.
Yeah, I remember I remember people were, like, speculating, you know, Lance Storm, he's going to be in Ring of Honor, he's going to be doing a few shows, and I was really pumped when they announced you, because I'm like, you know what, this is kind of like the perfect heel-type character to go into this and just, like, mess with him, because, you know, like, he's a great wrestler, you're a great wrestler, but you also have that thing above him where you can just mess with people that you have no respect for him, you think he's crap, and I just thought it was the like, the legit, like, match made in heaven with you two.
Yeah, I thought it was
great.
Perfect. Well, thank you.
Because I remember watching, I was like, you know what? Because a lot of people were kind of, like, iffy about it. They were like, we don't really know how great it's going to be. And then when you did it, it just came out amazing.
Yeah, I think we turned a lot of people's heads. I think, well, Lance didn't turn anyone's heads because Lance has been Lance for his entire career, and everyone's known how good he is. But as far as I go, I think they did turn a lot of heads. I think a lot of people were like, all right, well, maybe he's not as green or sucks as bad as we thought he does. But to me, I mean, the people that say I suck, it is what it is. But those just being in there with Lance has always been such a an honor for me. So that's what's important to me.
Yeah. So now you're actually taking him on at Border Wars. Now, was that always the plan? Were you always going to wrestle him in Canada, or was it initially a one-shot deal turned into more like Lance wanted to work more with you?
So I believe the whole plan was originally always for him to do two things, and was for him to do the Showdown in the Sun, because I know he was going to be down there for Edge's Hall of Fame induction. And then, obviously, we already had the show in Toronto booked, so I think the plan was always to do the Miami show and then the Toronto show, and which I believe he has been saying could possibly be his last match in Toronto, which, if that's the case, it's even more of an honor for me.
Wow, I just heard that basically before you called. I was like, wow. I'm like, that's insane. I'm just like, Mike must be kind of nervous now, just saying, might be his last match ever. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's really an honor. And the honor, he said nice things about me in interviews, and he has said nice things about me before he even wrestled me. So the fact that, he thinks that highly of me is really an honor. And I'm excited to get in there in front of his home country and the crowd, and hopefully they don't kill me.
This is the Death Before Dishonor 8 crowd. This is gonna be the crazy guys. I think they'll welcome you with a lot of hate because of Lance, but I think it's still gonna, in the end, yet again, you're gonna turn some heads, and I think in the end it's gonna do better for the both of you, because I think it's gonna be a great match. Just seeing what you guys did in Fort Lauderdale, I'm really excited for this, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I am too. This is probably the biggest match of my career, and I can't wait. I've been excited ever since I knew it was going to happen, and I'm super excited now. And the closer it comes, I get giddy about it, thinking about it.
So, just some other questions. Some of my friends have wanted to ask you, who's your dream opponent? Is there one guy that stands out in your mind that you want to wrestle really bad?
I would say, as far as all time, probably Edge. Edge is like me and Maria joke, because I always say I have a man crush on Edge. I'm such a huge fan of his and his work, and if I could wrestle anyone ever, it'd be him. Guys who are still active, there's so many, but as far as like WWE goes, I'd love to get in there with CM Punk, because I think he's awesome. I think Dolph Ziggler's amazing, and then obviously I'd love to get in there with Triple H, Shawn Michaels, It's Ring of Honor. I'm dying to get in there with Kevin Steen.
Oh, that'd be great. I just thought of that. I'm a huge Kevin Steen fan. That'd be awesome. I'm just thinking about it now.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be really good. Oh, wow.
Yeah, he would be great. What's not to love about Kevin Steen?
He was actually another reason I really got into Ring of Honor, because, like I said, 2010 was kind of like the year of Steen and Generico. Like, every show, they were killing each other. I was like, this is like... Then I found out he had a career a couple of years back, and it just made me love him even more.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's fun to watch right now.
Oh yeah, and I'm just thinking about like the personalities clashing. That'd be awesome, to be honest. So
we're polar opposites. It's awesome.
Exactly. It'd be amazing. So now, do you have any advice? A lot of I talked to a couple of guys. They wrestle in like really smaller independent companies. Now, do you have any advice for up and coming wrestlers who kind of want to hit like the Ring of Honor and then go above and beyond? All right, so you guys might have noticed a slight little tweak with that. It was just the college drop, so don't worry about it. So let's just pick up right where we left off here. Now, I know a lot of guys who are from smaller companies, or not even they're just trained to be wrestlers. Now, do you have any advice for guys who kind of want to hit that Ring of Honor level and maybe even go further in their career?
Yeah, the best thing I can say is keep your mouth shut and just listen. Listen. There's far too many guys in wrestling right now that think they know it all. And they don't listen, and they don't get it. And I just want to strangle them and be like, just shut up for 2 seconds and listen to what this guy has to say, because they follow the wrong advice, or they don't listen to the right advice. And there's far too much negativity in wrestling. You have to be positive. You have to constantly think positive, because when you think negative, then you're just going to attract negativity. I just think these guys, if they really want it and they're really committed, they need to eat, sleep, and breathe wrestling. They need to shut their mouths, and they need to constantly just think, you know what, I just have to work hard, and work hard. Because I've said it a million times, and I've said it to a lot of my friends who ask me for advice, or to a lot of wrestling guys. There's no substitute for hard work, and I know it's cliche, but it's the truth, and I can attest to it. I know a ton of guys that can attest to it. If you work hard, and you stay true to yourself, your character stays true, and you're true to your beliefs, you'll get to where you want to go. It's just a matter of not giving up.
Exactly. Now, I'd just like to thank you, Mike. It was awesome interviewing you. I'd like to thank you for just agreeing to do it to begin with. So thanks a lot, man, and good luck at Border Wars. I'm sure you'll do awesome there. And anything you'd like to plug before we wrap up here?
No, thank you for having me. It was fun. I really enjoyed these interviews. I do a lot of them where a lot of the guys are boring and I don't know what to say, or they put me to sleep, but this was actually fun. Honestly, just follow me on Twitter at ROH Mike Bennett. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I just appreciate you having me on.
All right, so thank you, Mike.
Thank you.